Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start out painting the Sunken Temple card. I went and loaded some paint already on my palette, and you can see over to my right, I've got the 4 paint colors that I chose to use for this card. The Kraken Skin Toxic Mist, that's going to be for a bunch of the highlights and some of this water movement we can see. The Elven Armor and the Azure Magic, these are both colors that have a bit of a metallic shine to them, so I'll be using those as well. Does a really good effect with the water theme of this card. And then I've just got black and white, so we're not going to have to put a million different colors on here. I do have some other things that I could use, but like I said, I want to try to show you guys how you can do this without having to buy every color paint that's out there. And we're going to work on building up this light area at the top of the card first. So I'm going to go ahead and do my best to try to match what I see. So as I look at this card, I can tell that this is an area where the sun's coming through. The water surface is breaking. We've got a bit of a column or a structure that's submerged, that's literally breaking through the surface. And that's important when you're altering cards, because you want to try to keep to the theme of what you're seeing around in order to really have the believability of the fact that you're continuing the actual card surface. So in order for these areas of the light reflection to work, we've got to add some darker blue in here. I just went ahead and grabbed that Elven Armor, and I'm kind of going back through. This is just the back and the forth of the paintbrush. Like, it's water moves back and forth, so we just want to make those same sort of marks with our paintbrush. And again, we're just using that flat brush, the same one that we used to lay that gray out. And you can blend it. One of the keys to making these altar cards work is a process called wet on wet, and that's where you will blend wet paint on your brush with wet paint on your card. If it's dry, it will not blend. So you do this quickly. It's a very familiar process for people who've ever done watercolor painting, or if you've ever done faux painting, if you're a professional painter and you do any wood grain, this is very familiar process. So I might go back once this dries a little bit and add some more concentrated light right around that column that's breaking the surface, because I want to make it feel like that column is there, but not pushing up through the closer area of the water. And then I am going to go ahead and just quickly knock out putting the rest of this element in. So clearly this is some sort of shadowy object in the foreground. We're going to go ahead and mix a little bit of the blue in with this, gradate it down a little bit, kind of blend it again. And then we got to break the plane of the border of this card, okay? So we did it up here, but now we have to continue that line for what that element would be downward. Looks like maybe another fallen column that's just really up close, so it's super dark for us. I'm gonna add some more blue and mix some black in there. And I'm just gonna go ahead and continue this. You always can add more detail as you go. This is, again, just the first bit that we're putting on here. But you want it to be fairly solid with the color so that you can start to see how the card is gonna look different as you start to leave the original picture and go outside of the borders. All right. I like this color, and I'm going to go ahead and continue using it because I've already got it mixed up. So one thing about these paints, they dry very quickly. So if you've got a cool color that you like, you're going to want to go ahead and continue to use it until you have run out of it. That way it's not getting wasted and you don't have to go and remix stuff later. So over here, I'm creating a little bit of a shelf, something that's kind of blocking that figure that's in the sunken temple. So maybe it's another wall or something that's kind of protruding in from the side. Add some blue in there to give it a little bit of density. And again, we want to make sure we're doing this not too thick. So you can go back if you got some thick spots, and I'll even remove some of the paint if I feel like it's too thick, because you'll get the feel for that as you're evening out the surface. Remember, these are water-based. You always can get a little water on your brush if you need to reactivate the surface and to blend it some more. All right, so let's go ahead, and we just did that wall behind the figure. I'm gonna go ahead and try to get this kind of blended a bit more into that darker feel of the background. And then here we go. We've got to go paint back into the picture a bit. You can't just paint the gray areas that you blocked off in the first step. You've got to make sure that you have some of that feel of that painterly quality that's going into the entirety of the card. Otherwise, that trompe-l'oeil feeling will not be believable. Again, we're going to mix some of that. Less black this time because I'm trying to make it kind of a darker area on the water instead of the actual structures. And this won't be the last time that I work in this area of the card. I am going to go back in and I will do some additional work on the figure. I'm going to extend her head upwards. All right. So the next part is for us to start to work with the lower section of the figure. We can see that she's got some highlights in that neck piece. And so I'm going to kind of continue that. You can see her arm a little bit here. Got too much water on that brush. It was chilling in that water for a little bit, so just gonna remove that. Grab with my finger and remove some of that. This too here. So again, if I was painting on a canvas, that would not be a problem, but we are not. We are working here on these altered cards, so we want to make sure the surface itself stays somewhat dry. So for those of you who are not as familiar with painting, you know, a couple suggestions. Make sure that if you have a brush that's got some really good detail tip like this, that you try to save that. I like to roll my brush from time to time just to make sure that it's got that bit of a whip on the end of it. And that's important because I need that to leverage out some of the details as I get further along in this painting. And to be clear, like, I am not painting this so it is like photo realistic. I am not making sure every single detail is there. You just need the effect of, okay, this is a similar color, this is a similar shape, because the original image is so great and it's already there and it's already been, you know, painted at a large size and most likely shrunk down when they actually did the card making process. So getting a lot of those details and being able to control the paint at that micro level is really hard. So we are, again, just using this as somewhat of a, okay, we want the feeling of what this card is, not the exact details of what every part of the card would be. Now I am going to go ahead and add a little detail over here. I did this on another version of this card I did, but I'm going to add like a jar over here. You know, we covered up the 2 a little bit, so I'll probably use the Q-tip to get that off. But I want to paint a little bit of a jar. I'm just going to blend a little bit, some highlights in there. And one thing about paint is don't try to do all of the details while these things are wet. You can add in some brush work. Water's perfect to paint that way, but if we got objects, you need that paint to dry a little bit so you can layer up the effects. And if you are not interested in putting like a little jar down here, that's fine. Do what you want. This is your card, your altar. You can even just add a gradation of some of this blue into the mint to create that foreground effect. So these things are pretty open to interpretation. I'm going to let that dry before I put the details on. All right, I'm going to go back in, mixing some of the 2 metallic colors together, getting a little bit more of this feel with this marine color blue. So we're going to have down here as well. Now there's also some really cool fish that are floating through, and I love that. I'm going to add some of those myself in a little bit, but again, you don't have to continue that, but I do want you to see that as an opportunity on where to make some cool detail work if you choose to do that. All right. So here's where we are right now. It's already starting to see, you know, taking the whole process together and kind of getting that feeling of, okay, this card goes out beyond the edge of the picture itself. And you can see there's a couple parts that are still wet, but these paints do dry quickly. I sometimes will have a fan in front of me just to get the drying process to quicken up so that I can go back in and add more details. So let's go ahead. I do need some more white. I didn't think I was gonna use too much white, but here we are. Okay. And through, I'm gonna add a couple of rocks down here. You need a little bit more of this. Elven armor. All right, now. So this is just gonna be adding a bit to the top of this sculpture. It's like a little bit of hair detail or maybe a bit of headwear. And again, we're not like creating a ton of details here. We're just giving the suggestion that there's something up there on top of this statue. And we can see that kind of leading downward. Put some more things here. You're just working some highlights. And I'm going to go back through and add a couple more. We call these low lights, like darker portions. Add that to the surface reflections. Don't have very much of this color in there, so we'll work that back through. You can kind of see where, as these colors get thinner, they become glazes themselves. And that's what's great about this paint. It does that. It's one of the only paints that I know that functions this well in that scenario. A little darkness to that column. Go ahead and highlight some of these surfaces over here. And again, these are just like hints that there might be something part of this statue reflecting down there. And I will add a little bit more. As well, these are just kind of, again, some highlights that I'm adding. And we're gonna go back in and hit this pot down here. A little bit of a design on that. All right. So we are getting pretty close to being finished with this guy. Bring it over to show you guys a little bit more details. And I'm going to add some of those fish I mentioned. So we're just going to use, let me use this yellow instead. Phoenix Flames and pure red. So again, you don't see me having orange, and that's color that's used and part of the fish in this. So I'm going to mix up some of that for us. And again, with a detail brush, like I said, guys, I've only used 2 brushes this whole time, so it's not like you need to go out and get yourself an entire collection of brushes. You're totally fine with just a few. So you're just like this little school of fish. You want to make sure that you've got a couple light ones that are straight up yellow. And then you want to go and do some that are a little bit orange, reddish orange. And to give that effect of, oh, they got highlighted. I'm going to go for a little bit of a mixture here. So we got some more fish there. I thought about doing one of these cards where just a huge fish right at the bottom. It'd be pretty cool. If you want me to do that and you want to see a video on it, let me know in the comments. And here's some fish floating this way. All right. All right, guys, so see, this one's pretty much done. Sometimes I'll get excited and go back and, you know, add some more details later on, but it looks pretty good. So thanks for hanging out, and I hope you like your altar and are gonna go into making a whole bunch more.